I remember that time a few weeks ago, when my evening jogs turned into something terrifying. I always went to the park after long hours at work. It helped me clear my mind. I didn't consider myself a real runner, but I had my routine. It felt nice at first. Children played near the swings, and birds chirped in the trees. One evening, as I jogged past my usual bench, I noticed an old man sitting there. He looked out of place. He just stared at the pond. Something about his blank stare made my heart feel heavy. I picked up my pace. Just as I was passing by, I felt a chill. I glanced at him, and our eyes met for a split second. He whispered something, but I couldn't catch the words. Maybe I was imagining things. I shook off the feeling and kept running. Days passed, and I kept seeing the old man. He was always in the same spot, now moving closer to my path. Each time I saw him, unease settled in my chest. I thought I heard his whispers even when I couldn't see him. I wondered if I was just tired or letting my mind play tricks on me. Still, that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. One night, I reached into my pocket to check my phone. My keys were missing. I thought maybe I had left them at home. But then, something caught my eye. Shadows shifted in the trees. I turned my head quickly, but there was nothing, just the gentle sway of branches in the wind. I felt a shiver creep down my spine. Adrenaline kicked in, and I jogged faster. With each run, that feeling of being watched grew stronger. I kept thinking about that old man. Who was he? Why did he haunt my path? Maybe he was just a lonely soul looking for some peace. But something deep inside me said it was more than that. I started to dread jogging. That final encounter was the worst. I was nearing the bench under a sky painted with sunset colors. The old man stood there, staring directly at me. I felt frozen. I asked if he was okay, but he just kept his gaze on me, as if he could see straight through me. Whispers echoed in my mind, and I thought I heard my name. I started to sweat and felt dizzy. Then, he stepped closer and asked, "Why are you running?" His voice held an accusation, and I felt my heart race. I turned to look behind me, thinking maybe someone else was there. There was no one, just the empty park under the fading light. That moment haunts me still. I felt like he knew something I didn't. My jogging routine changed after that. Now, I avoid the park whenever I can. I wonder if I should have just stayed home that day. It still creeps into my mind, that old man. I run through it over and over, but I can't shake the feeling that I was never alone. The days passed slowly after that encounter. I stayed away from the park, my usual jogging route replaced with a path through my neighborhood. But still, I felt the weight of the old man's question echoing in my mind. Why are you running? It felt like more than just a simple inquiry. It felt like a threat. One evening, my friend invited me over for dinner. As I sat in her cozy living room, trying to laugh at her jokes and enjoy the food, I couldn't shake the nagging thoughts. I watched the window, half expecting to see someone lurking outside. Her cat, a sleek black creature, kept staring at nothing, its eyes wide and alert. I tried to convince myself it was just a cat being a cat, but a sense of disturbance began to settle over me. After dinner, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. The sky was clear, and the stars dotted above, casting a small flicker of light in the night. My pace quickened as I walked, my heart racing just like it did during those evenings at the park. Each shadow in the alley seemed larger than it was, and I could feel the air wrap around me like a blanket of unease. Then, a sound broke the silence, a soft whisper. It was so faint, barely a breath of air between words. I froze, my blood running cold. The familiar sensation returned, the feeling of being watched. The hair on my arms stood up. I turned my head in every direction, desperate to find the source of the voice. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. I half hoped it was just the wind, but deep down, I knew better. There were no houses nearby, no signs of life. Then, there it was again, come closer. The whisper was so soft, but it beckoned me. My instincts screamed to run. Instead, curiosity dug its claws into my mind. Every rational thought implored me to turn back. Yet I felt tethered to the sound, as if it held the answers I needed. I stepped cautiously toward where I imagined the words had come from. Suddenly, a shape broke through the darkness. I squinted, my heart pounding. The figure emerged a pale silhouette under the dim light of a street lamp. It was the old man, but something was different this time. He seemed to shimmer, like a mirage, flickering in and out of view. He was closer than ever, his face twisted in a way that sent a jolt of fear down my spine. "You can't run forever," he said, and I froze, paralyzed by terror. His voice washed over me, chilling my whole being. Then, just as quickly as it had started, the vision started to fade. Darkness engulfed him, and the whispers faded into nothingness. I stumbled back, tripping over a crack in the sidewalk. Breathless, I turned and ran, my instincts taking over. I didn't stop until I was back inside my friend's house, heart racing, mind a storm of thoughts. That encounter was nothing like before. Whatever that was, it felt real and far more sinister. I had to find out the truth. Who was he, really? And what did he want from me? The next morning, I woke up with a tightness in my chest. I hadn't slept well. I couldn't shake the old man's face from my mind. I kept wondering if I should talk to someone about it. Maybe my friend, but I wasn't sure how to explain. So instead, I decided to go for a walk, hoping the fresh air would help ease my racing thoughts. As I stepped outside, the sun hung high in the sky, but it did little to warm the chill that had settled in me. I walked without purpose at first, just moving my legs and letting my mind drift. I wandered past the park, the place I promised myself to avoid. But there I was, staring at the entrance, my body moving of its own accord. I walked in, hands shoved deep into my pockets. The place was empty, a stark contrast to the hustle and bustle I remembered. I took a deep breath and focused on the path ahead. I had to confront this lingering fear, tackle it head-on. But as I neared the familiar jogging trail, a chill ran down my spine. Then I noticed something, a small, crumpled piece of paper lying flat on the ground. Curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up and unfolded it. My heart sank as I read the single line scrawled in jagged handwriting, "You can't escape your past." The word struck me like a blow. I glanced around, feeling paranoid. Was someone watching me? I quickly shoved the note into my pocket, not wanting to linger too long under the suffocating weight of unease. Just as I turned to leave, I heard a rustle from the bushes nearby. My heart leaped again, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I inched closer to the sound, straining to see anything out of the ordinary. That's when I realized the bushes were shaking, and a low growl emerged from their depths. My breath hitched in my throat. I stepped back, ready to run, but then, a face appeared. It was a dog, scruffy and dirty, with wild eyes and a collar that looked too big for its frail frame. Relieved, I said, "Hey there, buddy." But my heart was still racing. As I knelt to check on the dog, I noticed something else, a line of dirt that extended from the bushes to the ground. It was freshly disturbed, as if something had been dragged through. My mind raced again. What could it mean? I glanced back at the park, my heart pounding in my ears. I had to leave. I turned to walk away but stopped dead. The old man was standing at the far side of the park, too distant to make out his face. He pointed at me, his features ethereal and distorted in the sunlight. "You've come back," he called, his voice wavering across the space between us. "You can't hide from your fate." A wave of nausea washed over me. The whispers I'd heard before echoed in my mind, urging me to approach. I shook my head, backing away, feeling like I was caught in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Then everything went dark as a thick fog rolled in from nowhere. I stumbled backward, disoriented. It felt like the world had been pulled out from under me. I had to get out of here. As I turned, the weight of my decision settled heavily on my shoulders. This wasn't just about fear anymore, it was about confronting something that was determined to keep me trapped. I ran, not just to escape but to find answers. As I sprinted away, a thought crept in: would I be able to face whatever was coming next? The moment I broke into a run, panic set in, fueling my legs to move faster. The familiar path blurred beneath me, and I focused on putting distance between myself and that old man. Fear fizzled with every breath I took, but I couldn't shake the nagging sense of being watched. My heart hammered, drowning out the sounds of my footsteps. I darted down a side path, hoping to lose myself among the trees. They loomed like dark sentinels around me, their shadows deepening the unease. I turned a corner and spotted a figure ahead, a jogger, dressed in a bright red shirt, moving steadily along the trail. I slowed my pace, hoping to blend in and find some comfort in the company. As I drew closer, I felt a sudden jolt of recognition. It was someone I used to know, Maya, a girl from high school. We were never close, but the sight of a familiar face brought a brief flicker of relief. She turned at my approach and stopped in her tracks, her eyes widening. "Hey," she said, catching her breath. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Yeah, it's been a while," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just trying to clear my head." Maya's brows knitted together as she took a step toward me. "You look really shaken. Are you okay?" I considered telling her everything, from the note to the old man, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I shrugged. "Just a weird morning, I guess." Before she could press further, I heard a rustling sound coming from the bushes nearby. My pulse quickened again. Maya seemed to sense my shift in tension. "What was that?" I shook my head. "I don't know. Just some animals, probably." Maya's gaze was locked on the brush. "It's probably best if we keep moving." I agreed, and we started jogging together. After a few moments, the park seemed to lose its oppressive energy. We fell into light conversation, talking about old times. For a brief second, I felt normal again. Just two friends catching up. But then I saw something ahead, lying on the ground just off the path. My heart dropped as I recognized it, a battered, old teddy bear, matted with dirt. "Maya," I stopped, fumbling for words. She noticed the bear too, and her expression shifted. "That's strange. Why would it be here?" Just as I reached down to pick it up, a loud growl erupted from the bushes nearby. We both jumped back, and my instinct was to run again. But before I could react, an animal dashed out, a large, shadowy figure that stopped short, fixating its gaze on us. It was a wolf. I froze. The animal's eyes were piercing, filled with intelligence and something that felt almost predatory. Maya stepped back slowly, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. This wasn't just some wild creature, it was as if it recognized me, much like the old man. I turned to Maya, panic flooding my veins. "We need to go now." As we backpedaled, I glanced over my shoulder. The wolf didn't move, just watched us with a haunting intensity. That's when I noticed something: a thin, frayed leash attached to its collar. It didn't match the wildness in its gaze. Confusion blurred my thoughts. Maya pulled me back. "Run. Don't look back." We took off, adrenaline pushing us faster. My mind raced with questions as I ran past the teddy bear, the wolf's searing gaze shadowing me. What did it all mean? As we fled the park, a single thought screamed in my head: I wasn't safe, and something was coming for me. We burst out of the park, my lungs burning as we ran through the nearby streets. Maya was beside me, her breath coming in sharp gasps. I stole a glance at her, and I could see the fear written all over her face. "What was that thing?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know. But it felt like it was watching me, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I could still picture its eyes, so unnaturally aware. It had a leash. Someone must own it. Maya raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? It looked wild to me. I thought so too. But then why was there a teddy bear? We slowed to a jog and then stopped, trying to catch our breath. Every few seconds, I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see the wolf following us. The panic settled slightly, but my mind was still racing. I think we should get to my apartment, Maya suggested. It's not far from here. We can figure out what to do next. Good idea, I said, not wanting to be alone. Together, we walked cautiously down the sidewalk, my heart still racing in time with my thoughts. The old man, the wolf, and now a forgotten teddy bear all connected somehow. It felt wrong. As we reached my building, I noticed a strange feeling in the air. The usual hum of the city seemed muted, the sounds of cars and voices fading into an eerie silence. Do you feel that? I asked, glancing at Maya. She nodded, her eyes darting around. Something's off. We pushed through the entrance and climbed the stairs to my apartment, the old wooden steps creaking beneath our feet. Inside, I quickly locked the door, the latch clicking into place with a reassuring sound. What do you want to do? Maya asked, plopping onto the couch, her usual demeanor fading. I took a moment to collect my thoughts. I was trying to remember the last time I saw that man at the park, but I can't. It feels like he has been a part of my life for ages, even though I've never spoken to him before. I know it sounds crazy. But I feel like everything it has to mean something. Before Maya could reply, a loud bang echoed from someplace near the front of the building. We exchanged nervous glances, and the color drained from her face. Did you hear that? Yeah, I said, my heart dropping. I crept toward the window and pulled back the curtain slightly. Outside, the streetlight flickered like it was losing a battle against the night. To my horror, there was a cluster of dark figures gathered at the park entrance. They were eventually unnoticed. Oh no, Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. Why are they out there? I stepped back, feeling a wave of nausea. They look like I don't know, but they don't seem normal. Just then, the lights in the hallway flickered above us. A cold chill ran down my spine. Instinctively, I checked the door, it was still locked. But just as I turned back, I spotted something under the couch. My breath caught in my throat. It was the teddy bear. How had it gotten here? Before I could make sense of it, I felt a thud at the door. Someone was trying to get in. I bolted upright, startled by the urgency of the noise. The thud came again, harder this time. Who is it? I called out, but the only answer was another violent bang against the door. Maya's eyes went wide, and she edged closer to me. What if it's those things from the park? Her voice trembled, barely more than a whisper. I don't know, I said, trying to sound calmer than I felt. In that moment, the teddy bear seemed like a terrible omen. It hadn't just appeared under the couch, it had come from somewhere. I glanced at it, the soft fibers lit by the flickering light, and imagined it filled with secrets. Suddenly, the banging stopped. My heart raced in the silence. Every instinct screamed at me to hide. I turned and moved toward the bedroom, gesturing for Maya to follow. She gave a faint nod, her eyes locked on the door. As we slipped into the room, the door rattled again, and I pressed my back against it, feeling the wood splinter beneath my fingers. We need to call the police, Maya said, frantically reaching for her phone. No signal, I replied, my stomach dropping. Not here. The old windows rattled in their frames, and I felt the temperature drop. Shadows seemed to stretch, creeping in wider as the light dimmed. I could feel something shifting outside, a presence pressing against the edges of my thoughts. It was as if the air pulsed, thickening with anticipation. What do we do? Maya's eyes darted about as if searching for a way out. Then the door shook again, more violently this time. I could hear muffled voices outside, murmurs mixing with the wind. "Let us in." One shouted, but there was no comfort in their tone. They sounded hungry, desperate. I clasped Maya's hand tightly. "We need to get out of here," I said, but there was nowhere to go. The only window led to a dark alley. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed behind us, a mirror shattered, glass tumbling and glittering on the floor. "Stay quiet," I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. We crept toward the window, peering into the darkness. The alley was a gaping maw, drawing the light into the shadows. I suddenly felt the overwhelming urge to leave, to escape whatever had followed us home. That's when I noticed something in the flickering shadows. A figure stood at the end of the alley, illuminated by the streetlight. It was the old man from the park. He raised his hand, holding something. I squinted, my heart racing. It looked like a leash. Suddenly, the door buckled under another blow. My pulse quickened, panic rising in my throat. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered out entirely, plunging us into a terrifying void. For a moment, I could hear nothing but our breath. Then, fading into the overwhelming silence, I heard a whisper, soft but clear. "Let me in." The darkness swallowed us whole. I squeezed Maya's hand, the panic coursing through me. My heart thudded in my chest, a loud reminder of the silence pressing around us. I focused on her face, pale and wide-eyed like a spotlight in the gloom. "Stay close," I whispered. "We have to." Before I could finish, the door slammed open, a loud creak echoing through the room. The sudden movement made me jump. A figure loomed in the doorway, backlit by a creeping light that seemed to crawl under their feet like fingers. "Let me in." It was the old man's south voice from the park, but it was different. Deeper, more forceful, like it belonged to someone else entirely. "Get away from us!" I yelled, instinctively stepping in front of Maya. Whatever fear gripped me morphed into a bristling protectiveness. "Please!" he pleaded, but the desperate tone was laced with something darker. I couldn't tell if he was sincere or if I was looking at a monster in disguise. "They're coming for you. You don't want to be out there." "Who's coming?" I shouted, my voice breaking slightly. "What do you want?" He stepped forward, unsteady. "You have to trust me." I caught a glimpse of his outstretched hand. The leash was still coiled in it, something heavy dangling from the end. Then I heard its soft scratching from the shadows in the hallway, slow and deliberate. I felt dread pool in my stomach. "We don't want any trouble," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, the edges of terror sharpening my words. Behind the old man, shapes shifted. I could see movement flickering, whispers dancing on unseen lips. "Look out!" Maya cried. She pulled me back just as a figure lunged into the doorway, its teeth bared. It was a creature, not quite human, its skin mottled and twisted, eyes full of hunger. I yanked Maya, tumbling to the floor as I pulled her away from the threat. My mind raced for a plan. The old man stumbled backward, vulnerability shining through his desperation, as the creature pushed forward. "Get in!" The man pointed frantically toward a closet, and without thinking, we ran for it. I shoved the door open, the claustrophobic space barely big enough for both of us. There we huddled, our breaths mingling with the dust of forgotten things. I reached up to peek through the slats, and in that moment, I saw more figures spilling through the doorway, more creatures, eyes wide with an unnatural glow. "I can't stay here," Maya whimpered beside me. I could feel her heartbeat racing against my arm. I nodded, torn between fear and the desperate need to protect her. "If we make a break for it, we might have a chance." Just then, the old man came crashing into the room, eyes wild, breathless. "You have no idea what they want. Just run." That was when everything felt like it was tilting. I turned back toward the door. "What do they want?" I shouted. But before he could answer, the shadows surged forward, and the creatures lunged, a mass of hunger and fury converging on the old man. I looked at Maya, her face an unbearable mix of fear and determination. Now. We pushed through the closet door, adrenaline igniting my body as I bolted into the chaos, desperate to escape whatever nightmares had found us. We burst from the closet into a wild scene. Shadows danced around us, obscuring the shapes of the creatures that had once been the old man's pursuers. A low growl rose up from behind, and suddenly, we were caught in a panicked rush, adrenaline surging with every heartbeat. "Turn left!" I yelled, trying to navigate through the chaos. Maya nodded, her eyes wide, and we darted to the side, barely avoiding a gnashing jaw that snapped just inches away from my shoulder. We stumbled down a narrow hallway, the air thick with stale dust and something metallic and acrid. I didn't know where we were headed, but the noise behind us shrieking, howling made it clear we had to keep moving. As we raced towards the end of the hall, a heavy wooden door loomed ahead. With little time to think, I shoved it open and rushed inside, pulling Maya with me. We slammed the door shut and leaned against it, panting. "What now?" Maya gasped, the fear in her voice palpable. I scanned the room, frantic for an exit, but it was dark and filled with old furniture draped in sheets. "We can't stay here long," I said. "We need to find a way out." Just as I began to move deeper into the room, I heard a dull thud against the door behind us. The creatures were relentless. Panic surged anew as the thumping grew more aggressive. Maya pulled at my sleeve. "Over there." She pointed to a cracked window, the glass grimy but intact. "It might be our only chance." Without hesitation, I scrambled towards it, pushing aside an ancient armchair. "Give me a boost," I called back to Maya. She rushed to help me prop up my foot, and I braced myself against the sill. But before I could climb up, something caught my eye. A figure crouched low in the shadows across the room. A pale face, gaunt and hollowed, stared back at me with sunken eyes that seemed to glow faintly. I couldn't look away. Suddenly, it moved, lifting a gnarled hand slowly toward me. "Help me," it rasped, voice like gravel, barely above a whisper. "What is that?" Maya's voice was a hitch of fear, anchoring me back to the present. I shook my head, trying to stay grounded. "Don't let it distract you," I urged, turning back to the window. We had to escape, had to keep moving. I clambered up, forcing one leg over the sill. But as I turned to help Maya, that figure lurched forward, its movement jerky and frantic. "They'll come for you. They want you." It screamed, a sound that rattled my bones. I grabbed Maya's arms, trying to pull her up with me, but she hesitated. "What if it knows something?" "No," I shouted, fear and urgency coursing through me. "We don't have time." Then the door buckled, something relentless bearing down on it. I hurled myself back toward her as the window creaked ominously under my weight. But that wasn't the worst of it. As we finally broke free from the window, a terrible realization hit me. That figure was still watching us, its eyes burning into my soul. I landed hard outside, the ground rough against my hands, and momentarily lost sight of Maya. "Where are you?" I called out, panic creeping in. Then I heard it. The growl from the hallway, but this time, closer. I scrambled to my feet just as the old man's voice echoed in my mind a warning I couldn't shake. That's when I saw it, the shadows pressing in around me again, hungry and eager for the chase. I turned to scan my surroundings, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. The night felt alive, a chaotic swirl of shadows creeping closer. I felt exposed, and the moment stretched out in a tense silence before shattered by a guttural noise that made my skin crawl. "Maya." I called, but there was no answer. The air felt thick, pressing against me as if warning me to stay put. I took a step back, unwilling to break away from the safety of the wall beside me. I had to find her. I took a deep breath and peered into the darkness ahead. "Maya." I shouted again, the sound swallowed by the void. The growling echoed again, closer, a reminder I didn't have time to waste. I had to move. Just a few feet away, I caught a glimpse of movement. A figure bolted past, a flash of pale skin illuminated in the faint light from the moon. My stomach dropped. Was that her? I thought, panic twisting tighter into my chest. I hesitated, unsure whether I should follow or retreat. Another growl rolled through the air, deeper this time, and it sent me stumbling forward. I dashed in the direction the figure had gone, through the tangled underbrush that clawed at my legs. Maya! I yelled, my voice a desperate call in the emptiness. It felt like the shadows were about to swallow me whole. Then I spotted movement again, and my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't Maya. It was the figure I had seen before, crawling toward me with unnatural speed. My instincts screamed at me to run, but something held me in place. I felt rooted by sheer disbelief, teetering on the edge of mania. That face hollow and twisted was locked onto me, its eyes bright with a hunger I had never seen before. The worst part was the way it smiled, a grotesque widening of thin lips exposing jagged teeth. The air around me turned heavy, forcing me to swallow back nausea. Help me, it croaked again, but this time there was a mocking tone beneath those words. A cruel twist that chilled me deeper than the shadows could. My legs felt sluggish, bound by sheer terror. I finally forced myself to turn away, bolting through the tangle of darkness. As I ran, my heart hammered louder than the growls behind me. I couldn't look back. I had to focus. Then I burst into another clearing. The landscape seemed alien, a graveyard of forgotten statues poking through tall grass, their faces warped and unsettling. It felt wrong, like an invitation to despair. But a path lay ahead, lit by the moonlight. I took off, my legs pumping, desperate to escape the horror behind me. I thought I saw a flash of movement in my peripheral, figures shifting just beyond the shadows, but I pushed it from my mind. If I could just reach the edge of the park, maybe I could find safety. Just before I made a turn down another overgrown path, I heard a harsh whispering coming from the left. "Join us," it said, each word dragging out like a breath. The voice was familiar. I froze, my heart nearly stopping. It was Maya. "Help," she called, her voice strained and echoing as if she were trapped. Everything in me screamed to run, but I was tethered by the thought of leaving her there. I took a step toward the sound, when suddenly, another figure lurched forward, the one with the twisted smile. Now standing in my path, blocking any chance of moving forward. It tilted its head, studying me. "You won't leave," it whispered, and the weight of its words hit me like a brick. I glanced back, torn between saving Maya or fleeing into the obscured depths of the park. The shadows felt like a shroud around me, and I knew I was running out of time. I pushed through the heavy underbrush, driven by sheer instinct and desperation. The shadows danced around me as I sprinted, the whispers echoing like a haunting melody. They called from all directions, wrapping tighter around my heart, squeezing the breath from my lungs. I couldn't focus on them, I had to find Maya. "Stay with me," I shouted into the darkness, hoping she could hear me. "I'm coming." But the only answer was silence, oppressive and unsettling. I stumbled forward, trying to catch any hint of her presence, the faintest sign that she was still there. Every corner I turned showed me only more shadows, lurking and twisting, taunting me with their mystery. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted her. Maya stood a little way ahead, illuminated by a patch of moonlight breaking through the trees. "Over here," I called, running towards her. But as I approached, everything shifted again. Maya's figure warped in the glow. Her face, once vibrant and full of concern, twisted into the same menacing smile I had seen before, jagged teeth glistening, eyes devoid of life. "Help us," she crooned, her voice echoing with a chorus of others, a chorus I couldn't discern if it was in my mind or truly surrounding me. "No!" I yelled, stumbling back. "This wasn't my Maya. You're not her." But the figure only continued, the words a taunting melody. You can't escape your fate. The shadows flared around me, intensifying the fear crawling up my spine. I turned to run again, navigating towards the faint indication of the path I hoped lay beyond the trees. That was when I felt it, a pull from behind, almost like hands reaching for me, telling me to stop, to turn back. I grit my teeth and pushed against it. I had to escape. Fingertips grazed my shoulder, cold and insistent, rattling every nerve in my body. I swung around, my fear manifesting into pure adrenaline. I saw them, figures creeping from the shadows, their bodies distorted, limbs unnaturally long and twitching. They whispered and drew closer, and I lunged forward, forcing my legs to take one step after another. The old man's warning played in my thoughts, the final lesson of the park echoing behind me: you can't run forever. But I couldn't think about that now. I focused on the path ahead, where the trees began to thin out. The figures shrieked behind me, a cacophony of despair and hunger. Suddenly, I broke through the edge of the park, the moonlight illuminating the street and offering a momentary sense of safety. I turned to look back, heart thumping wildly, and the park loomed behind me like a dark wave, the figures still swirling amidst the trees, watching me with hollow eyes. But just as I thought I had escaped, a heavy weight bore down on me, a gut-wrenching realization. I was alive, but the question lingered: what had I actually escaped? The chilling gaze of the old man, the whispers, the shadows. I closed my eyes, desperate to shake the memories, but they clung to me, a reminder that the darkness always lurked just underneath the surface. I took a tentative step forward into the street, and I felt the night shift again. The air crackled with electricity, and I could sense eyes upon me, not just from the park but drawing from within. Did they always watch? Were they still there, waiting? The thoughts crawled under my skin, nagging at my mind like an itch I couldn't scratch. I walked slowly, panting, the streetlights flickering strangely, the echoes of that sinister laughter and whispered taunts fading into the night. I was free, but the implications hung thick and heavy in my heart. The dread lingered, the knowledge that I was not prepared for whatever came next still rolled like a thundercloud over my soul. Maybe one day, I might find the answers, but for now, I could only keep moving forward, gripping the uncertainty tightly as I navigated through life, shadows and whispers following in my wake. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I wonder if the old man still sits at the park, watching and waiting, or if those whispers still echo in the night. But mostly, I try not to think about it.